In Greek mythology, Antaeus was the half-giant son of Poseidon and Gaia. And in Chanel's mythology, Antaeus was the first masculine fragrance created by perfumer Jacques Polge. This was released in 1981, and 37 years on, it's still, in my opinion, probably still Chanel's best masculine, equal with Egoist, in my opinion. So the review is about Antaeus today. I'm going to get straight into it. Now, before we go, the bottle I've got here is probably dated from 2015 onwards. Now, I believe bottles from 2014 or prior had a silver collar spray. Apparently it's been reformulated more than once. This current formulation, however, from what I read and understand, is a pretty good one, probably lacking the performance of vintage Antaeus. But anyone who's a fan of Antaeus or has vintage Antaeus here can comment below in regards to their opinion. So let's get straight into it. So what I get in the opening immediately is this really aromatic, herbal and animalic opening. But what is really interesting about this opening on Antaeus is that it manages to be all of those things. So you get some kind of definitely herbal, aromatic notes and animalic notes. I know there's castoreum here in Antaeus, but at the same time there's this underlying what I would describe as soapiness as well. I'm not sure where that's coming from, but this kind of manages to be herbal, dirty and clean at the same time in the opening. And when you spray this on, my immediate impression is that there seems to be a lot going on at once. It's not a massive, from what I can see, it's not a massive note list, although there's probably lots of other ingredients not listed in here. But it's such a nice blend of different colours in the opening, which to me is really nice. And I can't compare it to vintage Antaeus, but this certainly to me is not challenging. It's definitely got elements of old school, 1980s masculine, but I think it still kind of holds up today. Maybe this current formulation is more suited to the times that we're in. But it's a really nice opening. About 5 to 10 minutes in, it basically is mainly on my skin green, herbal, and woody, like what, but like young green branch woody, if that makes any sense. And after that, it develops into the dry down, and what you begin to get is like a really classic Chypre base. Mainly what I get is mossiness, and patchouli is definitely there. So the thing with Antaeus though is when I was testing this with for this video, and I was doing a lot of close sniffing, what I noticed with this fragrance when I just wore it as a scent of the day or whatever, is you do pick up this nice rose note in this fragrance, and it kind of is just sitting there, almost underpinning everything else. Like, it almost stops it from getting too green and herbal, or too mossy, or too skanky, or the rose is kind of like the glue that keeps this fragrance together on my skin. But when you do a bit of close sniffing, it's very hard. It's actually very hard to detect it. It's almost like I can only pick up the rose when I'm wearing it and just getting wafts coming up from my chest or wherever I've sprayed it. But if you dig your nose in, it's almost as if the rose hides and then comes back when you move away. So it's a really interesting effect. Now, this the use of the rose in this is done really well. It's beautiful because this is unashamedly a masculine fragrance. It's a woody chypre style fragrance. There in the dry down, it does remind me of other powerhouse fragrances of its era. Specifically, when I was testing this, I was reminded of the dry down of Oscar de la Renta's Pour Lui, and I'm sure that the similar bases were used in a lot of those fragrances at that time. But Antaeus really, what it reminds me of is some kind of mythological forest, so it's really appropriately named. I'm not sure if the name came before the smell or vice versa. It was part of the brief of this creation, but you know, this reminds me of a forest and where you might find mythological creatures like fauns or satyrs or whatever you might find in there, and it's what that place might smell like. It's untamed. It's a kind of an untamed fragrance, and it is the type of attitude I guess you need to have to wear this fragrance. I wouldn't call Antaeus a refined fragrance. It's certainly for your untamed, masculine kind of guy, but it doesn't mean you have to be that guy. You do have to have that kind of attitude to sort of pull this off, because if you overspray this, even in its current formulation, it can be a bit much in terms of its performance. For this current formulation that I have, I get pretty good projection for the first couple of hours. It stays on the skin up to 8 hours, and I can still smell it. But it is on me, this is a kind of close bubble, a projection bubble. Early on, it would project, but otherwise, the pleasure's all mine for the rest of the day. So that's really my take on Antaeus. There's not really much else that I want to add to that other than, guys, check it out. I'm not sure how many women would enjoy wearing this, just because I can't imagine this, how this would smell on a woman. This is one fragrance that I wouldn't describe as, well, it's not unisex. It's not a unisex fragrance, and I'm not even sure how many women could pull this off, to be honest. But it is a great fragrance from Chanel. Antaeus, I hope you enjoyed that take, and I'll see you soon.